You know, officials say the gunman called 911 to pledge his allegiance to ISIS, also mentioning the Boston Marathon bombers. I want to talk now about that with Ambassador R. James Woolsey, is a former director of Central Intelligence. Also with me is Jim Maxwell, a retired special agent at the FBI. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. We appreciate your expertise. Ambassador Woolsey, you're first. Another terror attack on U.S. soil, this time a man who had been investigated by the FBI. Did he slip through the cracks, or is there a deeper problem here that we need to deal with?
Well, it's hard to vet people successfully. This is particularly a difficult one because the FBI had two occasions to interview him. They're very professional, and I think if there had been anything that there to be found in the sense of behavior that could have been legally objectionable, they would have found it. I think this is a serious problem because an individual like this one or a small group can become radicalized through various ways, social media and the rest, and undertake something of this sort that's absolutely horrific. And we are not going to succeed in dealing with ISIS and dealing with this kind of terrorist attack by just operating the way we have been. It's not going to work.
I was speaking to the police commissioner, William Bratton of New York City, and he said there are a number of that need to be changed, and he believes that Congress really is hamstrung, that people are tying their hands, and Congress should act on better legislation. Do you agree?
Well, essentially, yes. I mean, we have a trade-off, any society does, between liberty and security. And we're pretty lucky in the United States with the oceans around us and more or less friendly neighbors on the north and south. We have, on the whole, had both security and they haven't been a challenge to our liberty. But now we're in a situation in which liberty really may have to see some compromises in order for us to have adequate security, and hopefully they would not be compromises that would fundamentally damage the way we operate. But you know, during the Civil War, and I'm not advocating this, Lincoln suspended habeas corpus. We have had some very decisive changes in our security situation over the decades, over the centuries, in order to have security. We've had changes to our freedoms, and we're going to have to be careful about how we do this, but what we're doing now is not working.
Hey, Jim Maxwell, I have to ask you, I mean, the mind-boggling question to a lot of people that I've been speaking to today, and if you go online and you look at social media, how did someone who was questioned by the FBI 3 times, was under investigation at least, 2013 and 2014, maybe not the target of the investigation or the main person, but how does that person end up being able to legally buy guns?
Well, the criteria for buying guns, first of all, if you look at the paperwork when you apply for a weapons permit, you have to submit yourself to a criminal check. Now, if you have no convictions for any felonies, that's part of the process to qualify for having a weapon. Also, if you have no history or documented history of mental illness. So if he's clear on those 2 points, and he's a U.S. citizen, he has every right to buy a weapon. But I'd like to talk to the Bureau's posture on preliminary investigations. You know, we can't arrest people based on rhetoric and comments. The First Amendment still exists here. And I think if we start changing that, we're on a slippery slope. I've dealt with many of these investigations, and I've seen them go short-term because there was nothing else to hang our hat on. We couldn't go any further. And I've seen them go long-term, where all the resources of the FBI have been applied against individuals who are suspected of being involved in a terrorism plot. The FBI can't cover everybody 24/7, 24 hours a day. It's an impossible task. The director will tell you that.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
But we have to be...
Listen, hey, Jim Maxwell, before I go, I want to get this question. I know that you can't, there's just simply not enough manpower, but I want to ask you about this 911 call and get your opinion on it. When 20 minutes into this, he apparently made a call to 911 and pledged allegiance to ISIS. Talk to us about that.
Well, he made it very easy. We can at least say that he was inspired by ISIS to carry out this heinous act. Whether or not investigation down the road will show that he received any guidance, funding, or direction from any group overseas, that's a long-term investigation, and believe me, I'm sure that all the resources of the FBI and the federal government are being applied here to try to ferret that information out. Right now, we can easily say that he was inspired to conduct this type of operation. But
Jim Maxwell
that's the only thing
and
that
Ambassador James
confirms.
and Ambassador James Woolsey. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I appreciate you joining us.